Hey everybody, welcome back to another video, and today you're watching Reptilian World. So recently, as you guys know, I've got a new pair of white tree frogs. I wanted them for a long time actually, and I've seen a lot of videos online of people saying how great of a pet they are.
You guys, frogs are just 100% the best.
So guys, the substrate that I used for this enclosure was a coconut fiber mix with some eco earth soil, and I combined them together. And with tree frogs, the best thing to do is add a lot of hides and places for them to hide in and wander around. So here I'm just using a nice big wooden decoration. It's pretty sick, and it has a lot of holes and stuff for them to hide in. So guys, the enclosure I'm using for my pair of the white tree frogs is a 24 by 24 by 18 Exoterra tank, and it's also pretty good, decent size for them, as there's a lot of space for them to roam around in. And don't forget that white tree frogs like to explore, and the bigger the enclosure is, the better. Here I've also just added a nice like cork hide. It looks pretty cool, and you guys can also add a lot more like plants and stuff. Here I have some fake plants, so you guys can just pop them in. Like I've added mine here at the side of the tank. It looks pretty nice, and you guys can also add a lot more plants. Here I also have a second one. It's a bit smaller of size, and I'm going to put this into the background of the enclosure. The background is pretty nice as it looks like rock. Also guys, an important thing to keep in mind is that they need water bowls, because if you have white tree frog, they always like to stay in water areas. And at the bottom I've just added the big sized reptile water dish. Here I'm going to use a nice long bamboo stick. It looks pretty cool. Now we shall continue to make this setup. So here I'm using sphagnum moss. It's also really good for amphibians and other nice reptiles to keep. It's also humid, and we're going to add some to the enclosure. Now here we also have a hydrometer, as you can see. I recently got it today. It actually tells the temperature. If you can see on the top, it goes from humid to dry and to moderate, so this is also pretty handy for any enclosure. So now that I added some tape at the back of this, we're going to stick it to the side of the enclosure so we can tell how humid the tank is, or if it's dry or moderate. If you can tell, at the top we have a thermometer and a hydrometer, so we can tell the temperature and how humid the entire enclosure is. So for my tree frogs, here I'm using a 25-watt basking bulb, because right now my house is colder, so I'm going to be using this to heat up the frogs enclosure. Most of the time you can use a heat mat, but you guys can also use some bulbs. So guys, here I've actually decided to add a live ficus tree plant. They have a lot of branches and stuff for the frogs to feel safe in, and they can also climb around on them, so it's a pretty good plant to use in your enclosure. So guys, here's the final result of the enclosure. As you can see, the wonderful substrate with the water dish. Then we have our wonderful big tree branch with the cork hide there in the back of the enclosure. We also have the hydrometer and the thermometer there. Here's the heat bulb. Then here's our wonderful live ficus tree planted into the floor. And we have a lot of fake plants, so hopefully our pair of white tree frogs will have a lot of wonderful time exploring their enclosure, and hopefully they'll enjoy it. So guys, I guess it's time to unbox our pair of white tree frogs. Here's my gorgeous white tree frog. This is the bigger one, and as you can see, they're also called blue-eyed white tree frogs as they have blue eyes, and he also has pretty sticky feet. Isn't he wonderful? So here's a smaller one, and you're absolutely gorgeous. I've wanted these for such a long time, and finally I have them, showing you guys how wonderful they are and their wonderful enclosure. So it's time to add them into their enclosure. Also guys, comment down a name for these two wonderful white tree frogs, as I haven't named them yet, so I'll have you guys to name them. So I had a blast making this new enclosure for them, and they seem to really enjoy it. Here's a smaller one, just chilling on the leaves, and they're nocturnal, so most of the time they'll just be resting during the day, and when it's night time they'll be out for food. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.